and these are your Mike Tomlin Steelers. Yep, he's got history going for him in that, he's never had a losing season. I think he broke Marty Schottenheimer's record for longest start to a career without one. Now he's got another piece of history. What's the stat? First team ever to lose.
To be over 500.
Okay.
And lose back-to-back games to teams, both of which were at least 8 games under 500.
I'd like to officially welcome the two of you, and we'll see who else gets on board here, at 412-928-9370 to the dark side. You being Chris Muller and you being Donnie Football. Because I think you finally came over all the way to where I've been for a long time. You wrote a marvelous column last night. I could not sleep. I was in my bed at about 1 o'clock in the morning. Didn't even try to toss and turn. I was just staring there with the bright light on, keeping Amanda up and the baby and everybody else.
You didn't do that to her. Please tell me you didn't.
And they were actually sound asleep.
Thank God.
They didn't Estella didn't watch a second, and Amanda didn't watch much of it. And I'm sitting and I'm in bed, and I'm reading that, and I'm like, thank you, Chris. Finally, you're saying what I've wanted for such a long time. It's over. It's done. They're never going to win with Mike Tomlin. How is he going to make things better? It's run its course, all of those things. I was so grateful that you touched all the right notes there. Chords, whatever they say. I mean, that's how I felt reading that. I used to get over these losses like this by just smoking a lot of weed back in the day. You put on some Bob Marley or James Taylor or something like that. I can't do that anymore. So I have to use this show.
James Taylor?
Yeah, I like James Taylor.
You didn't tell me you were gone.
Going to Carolina, in my mind, things of that nature. Yeah. Instead, I got to read your column, which I thought was just spot on. And I'm looking at Donnie's tweets.
Yeah.
Leaving the stadium last night.
Fuming.
Fire this guy. I don't give a rat's ass if somebody hires him in 5 seconds. Who cares? Which, that's exactly how I felt for so long. You saw it. It crystallized before you last night that there isn't a happy ending to this. No, There's not. There was no Ben Roethlisberger send-off where he left the game winning a Super Bowl. And there's not going to be one for this coach either, Chris. No. If anything, it's only going to get worse.
Correct. The only way that it would get better is if they got incredibly lucky, like next year in the draft, kept him around, somehow picked a winner at quarterback, somehow surrounded that quarterback with the right coaches.
Yeah,
and
that's
got to go.
Exactly right.
But none of those things will happen as long as he is here.
A quarterback who is so good and so good from day one that the coaching he gets doesn't matter.
Right, a guy basically better than Stroud's been this year because Stroud has good coaching around him. No, I mean, here's where it comes down to for me. I have joined you on this side. I know you've been there a lot longer than I have. I'll defend having not been there until this point. But here's where it comes down to. Mike Tomlin, at the end of that game, I know you stayed up watching this the same way I did. This was basically inspiration, as sad as it is to use that word for the column. He ends his presser. He's so down in the dumps, he's even giving Brooke real answers. We know he doesn't like doing that. How does this team get its confidence back, basically, after these 2 losses? Mm-hmm. This is what we do. This is who we are. Which has one of those, it's true, but not in the way he wants it to be. This is very much what they do, lose to bad teams. This is very much who they are, a fraud. And you can put almost all of that back on him, either under the buck stops here with the head coach philosophy, or you can dive into the nitty-gritty and say he has had an ever greater hand in what they're going to look like, especially post-Roethlisberger. He has biffed that the way they have. And my big takeaway in that column, thank you for the kind words, is this. Big picture. Forget about, are they going to finish 2-2 or 3-1 the rest of the way? I doubt it. 1-3 at best is what my brain's telling me. Forget about that. What reason is there to believe, knowing what we know about him, he didn't want to fire Matt Canada, or he wouldn't have done it at the very least had Art not done it? That's the impression I've gotten. It's the impression you've gotten.
Right.
It's right. What is there about Mike Tomlin's recent decision-making track record to make anybody think that long-term here, things are going to improve? That all the things that are universally agreed upon by Steelers fans and even Steelers media who cover the team in a beat writer capacity, not even in our capacity, What things that we all agree are wrong with this team and fundamentally flawed are going to change as long as he is the head coach? I would say none of them. Literally none of them. Biggest complaints, bad offensive scheme. They don't have an NFL starting quarterback on the roster, like a good one for sure. Pickett might be like a bottom 5 to 7 starter. Okay? They don't have a good quarterback. They don't have a good scheme. They aren't really playing like they all give a crap. That's a huge problem. He seems to have had his message go stale. He doesn't seem to think any of those three things are problems yet. He still believes in the quarterback because of football justice, Kenny Pickett. He didn't want to fire the guy who engineered the horrible scheme that we're now seeing play out even worse with Faulkner and Sullivan. And every time people have brought up to him, man, your guys said they took so-and-so lightly or whatever, the best he can muster is, I'm going to withhold comment on that.
Okay, it's even so. If that's true, you're not taking these teams lightly. You're investing all this energy, and they've got your extreme focus. Well, then, how do you explain losing both of these games in the manner in which you did? So they're completely bought in, Mike. They're not looking past these teams. They're not lollygagging around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a way, that's an even bigger indictment. You're saying they're locked in, and you lose to Arizona by 2 touchdowns, and you fall behind 21-3 last night?
That's an
so
indictment.
What's that say then, either about the way they're being coached during the week, the way they're being coached on game day, or if the players aren't good enough, you're the guy that brought them in.
Mm-hmm.
Any way you slice it or dice it or cut it, you don't look good. There is no safe harbor here. There is no port in this storm for him. This is his team. They are assembled in his likeness. They are coached and molded the way he wants. He has no out here. He drafted Kenny Pickett. He brought in Mitch Trubisky to be the bridge quarterback, and then they doubled down on him as their backup. So he can't use that as an excuse. The guys that are failing him, the talent, first-round running backs, free agent signings, you name it, they're his players. I mean, it does, in my opinion, I know I don't like this guy, and I know you've taken a lot of the credit away from him, and you should because of what's happened post-Brady. But in a way, it is poetic that Mike Tomlin's darkest hour coincides with a game against New England, because Bill Belichick is at his rock bottom.
Yep.
He's done there. His team really stinks. And even when Belichick is in that sad, sorry state, he coached circles around Tomlin last night. Belichick did what he always does. He took away the Steelers' best 2 players on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. What did George Pickens do last night?
He had the first game, I believe, in Steelers history with 5 catches, at least 5 catches, and under 20 yards.
5 catches for 19 yards. What did T.J. Watt do last night?
Bupkis.
Zilch.
Got kneed in the face on the first play and probably shouldn't have even come back right away.
Even then, that's X's and O's. He did things strategically, schematically.
You're not even getting into what his offense did. He took Mike Tomlin's biggest area of weakness and pummeled it into dust.
Yeah, Mike Walker.
He did things like this. Like take his most physical wide receiver, knowing that Minka was out there and that's your best playmaker on the back end. Did you see that quote?
Yeah.
He said, basically the marching order was, hey, Juju, go block the crap out of this guy. That's great scheming. And guess who bought into it? Juju. Guess who made a huge catch over the top early? Juju.
Juju had his best game in a Patriots uniform 2 minutes into the game.
Congrats on your black and gold bet success. The other thing that
Chris,
we haven't...
I just want to say one more thing.
Yes.
Okay, so like this whole thing about how Tomlin teams never quit.
Mm-hmm.
You played a 2-10 team that is ready for the Bahamas. You're kind of starting to get back into it. Walker intercepts the ball. Their 30-year-old overweight running back,
who looked like he was running in quicksand even as he gained yards,
ran the guy down.
Yep. I thought that was the play of the game. When it happened, it felt massively significant.
That encapsulates that they, with 0 to play for, with some narrative out there that Belichick is actually deliberately trying to lose games and not wanting to win. That was them last night, and this is you. 2 games in a row against the bottom feeders, crappy-ass teams in the NFL, and you lose both at home. It's a new low. It's a new low for them, and it's mostly, more importantly, it's a new low for him, in my opinion.